One powerful mindset shift that you can make to transform yourself from a procrastinator to an achiever and an execution machine is adopting what I call the next action mindset. Now, the next action mindset is basically what it sounds like. It's having a mindset where you always take the next necessary required action to move yourself along the path towards your goal or objective. It sounds simple, and it is, but so many of us don't think this way and we don't act this way. Instead, what we do is we sit there, we analyze, we overthink, we procrastinate, and we do everything except for taking what we know is the next required action. For example, if you want to grow a YouTube channel, then the next required action might be to put together a content calendar or edit that video that's been sitting on your hard drive for the last few weeks and publish it. That's the next required action. But you come up with all these other things to avoid doing that work. The people who have this next action mindset, and you might know some of them, are extremely effective people. They get things done, they finish things, they ship things, they're pretty successful. And the reason they can do this is because of this extreme bias towards action and just doing the work and doing the next required thing. So how do you develop this next action mindset? How do you make that mental shift? We're going to look at 5 habits that you can build to help you move into this next action way of operating and thinking. So let's dive into those 5 habits. Habit number 1 is to convert ideas into projects and start taking action on them as soon as possible. So you probably come up with ideas quite often and you put them down in your notebook or you put them in Evernote or Obsidian or whatever you use, and they kind of just sit there, maybe for weeks, months, years. Most of the time you never touch these ideas. And to some extent, this is the cause of your analysis paralysis. You've got all these ideas, sitting on your computer in your note-taking system, and you're not sure which one to work on. One powerful habit that you can develop is when you come up with a good idea, instead of just writing it down as a note, make it a detailed document. And that detailed document should include more structure around the idea, how it would work, why it might not work, and then also a bunch of next action steps. So put together a more detailed version of your idea. Actually think through it for like 30 minutes as you write this. And then what you want to do is schedule out some time as soon as possible to spend 3 to 4 hours just pushing that project forward, doing some work on it. So to give you an example, let's say that I have an idea to build a digital product that helps people stop procrastinating, which I did. It's called Work Sprint. You can check the link in the description. This actually happened. I had this idea, okay, there's a lot of people who procrastinate. It would be cool to put together some sort of cohort-based communal sort of sprint where everyone has accountability and they have a goal and they work towards it. And I had that idea and I put together this document, just like a 1-page kind of description. And then the next day I worked on it. I wrote a bunch of notes down. I wrote a bunch of, sales page copy. I kind of structured the course and I took real action on it. And now it's actually a thing, like that's out there. In the past, I would have just written down this idea. It would have sat on the computer and I probably never would have done anything with it. So the benefit to this habit of converting ideas into projects is that you find out very quickly if it's something that you should be working on or not. Once you put those 3 to 4 hours in, you'll know that either it's not worth working on because you've uncovered this thing, or you've uncovered a problem, or you've realized, I don't actually enjoy doing this, or it will be the thing that you should be doing. It will be the thing that excites you and you'll build massive momentum because you've actually started taking action. So that's habit number 1, convert ideas into projects and then start taking action as soon as possible. Just put a few hours into it, build that momentum, and then decide if you want to continue with it or not. The second habit is to tell people what you have done, not what you're going to do. So there's nothing wrong with telling people your goals. But if you're the person who constantly talks about what they're going to do, but never does it, then I recommend making a change. See, when you tell people about your goals and your plans, it sparks a similar satisfaction that you get from actually working on the goal itself. So what I recommend is that instead of telling people what you're going to do, you just do the thing and then you tell people what you've done. So instead of saying, hey, I've got this great business idea, here's how it's going to work, here's what I'm going to do, you just do the work for like 3 to 6 months. And then you can say to the person, hey, so I've spent the last 3 months building this business. It's made, a couple of $1,000s in revenue, and I validated this, and here's where I'm going next, and things are ticking along. What do you think sounds more impressive? If you were on the receiving end, are you more impressed by the person who talks about what they're going to do, or the person who said, yep, I took initiative, here's what I've done, here's where I'm going next? Now, the reason this is a powerful habit to develop is because it forces you into that next action way of thinking. The next action is not telling someone what you've thought about. It's not telling someone, hey, I'm going to work on this project. The next action is taking the next action that moves the project forward. A penetrating question that you can ask yourself is, would I rather be the person who talks too much and has nothing to show for it, or the person who surprises everyone when they find out what I've been working on for the last 12 months and I have something to show for it? Okay, so the third habit is to work while you work and plan while you plan. So when you constantly fall back into planning mode when you're working on a project or a goal, which is usually because you don't want to face the task in front of you, you not only waste time that could be spent on the next actions, you're also at risk of prematurely adjusting course. And by doing so, you kill any compounding results. So let's say that I have the goal of building my YouTube channel, and I decide that I'm going to make 15 videos in 90 days. And I get 15 days into that process. Maybe I've put 2 videos out, and I start thinking, maybe I should start a blog instead. I think I'm a better writer anyway. And I start doing that rationalization, and I think, no, I should probably change course. And so I abandon the YouTube growth idea and I start working on the blog. And of course, I repeat the process a couple of weeks into that because I go back to that planning phase or that doubt or that overthinking. So if you've got a project or a goal that you're working on, you don't want to kill it prematurely just because you're facing some sort of resistance or it's a little bit hard or you're not seeing the results yet. You don't want to do that. You don't need to go back to the planning phase. You just need to do the work. So the habit you want to develop here is to plan and then work, and just work while you work and don't plan. Plan while you plan, work while you work. Keep them as separate and distinct. Now, I know there's going to be some pushback to this. You're thinking, well, what if I'm working on something and I have a better opportunity come up? Or I have a better way of doing things and I need to go back to the drawing board and think about it again. That's a good point. And that's where habit 4 comes in, which is to schedule review and readjustment points. So this is a good habit to build so that you don't fall back into that planning trap or the overthinking trap, or you don't feel tempted to adjust course prematurely. What you want to do is set review and reflection points along your project's journey. So let's go back to this YouTube channel growth example. I want to build my YouTube channel. I'm posting 15 videos in 90 days. I might say to myself, okay, I'm just going to work straight for 30 days. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to second guess myself. I'm not going to change course. After a month, on this day, I'm going to look back. I'm going to do some review. Am I doing this effectively? Is there a better way to do it? Is this worth doing? Do I want to abandon the project? Do I want to switch to something else? But until that scheduled review point hits, I'm not thinking about changing. I'm just doing the work. This habit greatly simplifies things because it forces commitment. And while it can feel uncomfortable, it's much better than constantly switching paths, adjusting course, abandoning projects, and killing any potential compounding effects that come from consistent action. Now, the 5th and final habit is to simplify. Always simplify. See, complexity is the enemy of action and progress. And the more complex or complicated your goal or your project is, the less likely you are to take action on it. Again, going back to the YouTube channel growth example, I could come up with a complex plan for how to grow my channel. And I can include things like optimal publish times, title analysis tools, hiring thumbnail designers, editing to perfection, SEO analysis to find the best videos to work on, and a dozen other things. And these things are not bad. If I was able to follow this plan perfectly, I'd probably do pretty well, and I'd do better than if I had no plan at all or a very simple basic plan. But plans are only as good as they are actionable. And if I know that I'm a procrastinator, then the more complex my plan, the more reasons I have, or the more incentive I have to avoid it altogether and not do the work. A better approach, if you're stuck in this trap and you're not an action taker, is to simplify. Simplify your project, simplify your goal as much as you can. So with the YouTube example, I might just say, you know what, my plan is to post 10 videos in 30 days. That's it. There's no complicated, analysis stuff. There's no having to hire a thumbnail designer. There's no strategy behind it. It's just, I'm going to post 10 videos in 30 days. That is my only goal. It's my only objective. So what you want to do is look at your projects, look at your goals, whether you're currently doing them or you want to start one, and see how you can simplify them. A couple of questions to ask. Do you really need to do everything that you've laid out? Are these parts of the project actually necessary, or can you simplify them? Are there things that won't really move the needle but just sound cool? And finally, are you prepared, being honest with yourself, are you prepared to take on all the work, or should you reduce the scope of the project? So those are the 5 habits. I want to share 3 more bonus tips with you. These are kind of helpful reframes and mental tools that you can use to adopt this next action mindset. The first is that castles are built brick by brick, right? So it's fun to build castles in the air, to come up with these crazy goals and project ideas and dreams, and it all feels good, but there's no real hard work required when you do that. Impressive castles that actually exist, like real castles, they require work, and they're built brick by brick, and they look nothing like a castle when they're first begun. That process can be discouraging when you're laying the bricks, when you're working on your project, when you're trying to grow your YouTube channel, when you're trying to build a business, when you're trying to, write a bunch of essays. You're at the start and you can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel all the time. You can't see how it's going to work out. But as long as you keep laying those bricks every day, then something great will eventually emerge. And so you need to trust the process, as cliche as it sounds. This is a cornerstone of adopting that next action mindset, that knowledge that if I take the next actions, eventually something is going to work out in my favor. Another helpful reframe is that clarity comes from action more so than it comes from just sitting there and thinking. So the time that you spend in analysis paralysis is time that you could be spending doing something actionable, anything. So when you find yourself spinning and overthinking, just do something. Write an article, record a video, send an email, make a call. Just do something actionable that gets you out of your own head and has some tangible outcome, no matter how small. And the final mental tool that I find helpful is to just remember that the stakes are not that high. If you plan in 90-day cycles or less, which is what I recommend, then making some sort of suboptimal choice of the project you want to work on, or not picking the best possible goal you could work on, it's not the end of the world. You can always get to the end of that 90-day time period and change to something else, right? The project or goal that you work on today does not have to be the rest of your life. But often when we're stuck in this analysis paralysis cycle, we kind of subconsciously think that it is. We think we have to work on the best possible thing because otherwise, our life's not going to be worth anything. We won't leave any legacy, and we'll be a complete failure, which is obviously not true. But a lot of us have a tendency to catastrophize like that, which is not helpful at all. So don't catastrophize. Remember that the stakes are not high, and that working on a suboptimal project or goal is better than watching Netflix or playing video games all day long, or some other form of procrastination. All right, so in conclusion, we have looked at what the next action mindset is, and we also looked at 5 habits that you can build to help you adopt that mindset. Those habits were to convert ideas into projects and take action on them as soon as possible, to tell people what you've done, not what you're going to do, to work while you work and plan while you plan, to schedule and review and readjustment points, and to simplify. Always simplify. Now it's over to you. So think about the goal or project that you're working on right now or that you want to work on, and identify the next action that you need to take. It will likely be obvious and you might already know what it is, but you're just avoiding it. And then go and do it. Just do it. Don't overthink it. Do the action and then do the next one and then do the next one. That is how you make progress. That is how you achieve things. And ultimately, building that momentum is going to feel pretty damn good. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.